Hi, I'm Amber.
And I'm Jessie.
And this is
Glowing in Tech.
Sponsored by Makers.
Welcome back to part 2. And we have Hosanna again. We're going to be talking about a career challenge that you faced and what you did to overcome that.
Yeah, so I think the most challenging thing that I've ever had in my career is probably working with a team member that you're just not clicking with. And I think it's something that doesn't get talked about too often, but it's an experience that we, especially as Black women, I would say we have quite a lot, because obviously we exist in life slightly differently than other people do. So I think a couple of years ago, it's probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I don't even think about it now, but at the time it was like, oh my God, the most traumatic experience where I was kind of working with a team member and we just didn't click. Like, I just found him to be completely different to me. His way of working was very different, and he was a lot older. So he was a white man and he was like in his 50s. Obviously, I'm a young Black woman in my 20s. So first of all, what do we have in common? And second of all, I felt at the time he was like thinking that he has to be my boss, but I was like, you're not my boss. Like, I've gotten here by myself. Like, I already have a boss. So there was really a big kind of clash on the way that we worked. And there was a lot of conversations with my manager about kind of like how we can work together, how things can improve, etc., etc. But in the end, I was just like, for me, this is not worth. Again, I'm all about soft life, guys. It's not worth the stress. And actually, that was one of the contributing factors of me moving teams, because I was like, I feel like we could try to make this work, but sometimes you have to recognize when things are just not going to be going your way, and you just think, I would rather have a peaceful working environment where I'm enjoying what I do rather than trying to make something work that just isn't. I think other people might advise for you to kind of stick it out and, prove something. But I was like, I have nothing to prove. Like, I know that I'm good at my job. I just can't work with you. Like, and that's okay. Sometimes that's okay. I think sometimes the way that the corporate world works is like, you have to pretend like your teams are like your busy mates and you're just perfect, but sometimes you're just not. But that was really challenging for me because it really knocked my confidence, because I felt like, oh my God, like this person who's so much older just doesn't seem to be able to work with me. Like, what am I going to do? Maybe it's me. But I was really lucky to have some really great role models, some really great allies in the business that were just able to support me. And they were like, you know what, it's not you. I've worked with you previously, what you're doing. And sometimes you question yourself a lot and you're like, is it me?
Yeah.
Am I the drama?
Yeah. It's so important to get perspectives from other people, right? So that was something that helped you feel empowered and decide that it wasn't something worth fighting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when, again, your experience is much shorter than the other person. You're kind of like, where are we going to go with this? And sometimes you get to the end and you're like, well, I would rather, again, just be in like an environment where it's supportive of me and it's better, because when things aren't good at work, it really impacts you mentally, physically. You can't sleep, you can't eat, it's stress. But yeah, I've overcame it with the support of people around me, and I'm so glad I did, because I went on to kind of work fantastic team, and yeah, things are so much better now.
So with that experience, that led you to changing teams?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that I wanted. Obviously, the first reason was that I was kind of, like I said, I wasn't learning as much as I could be anymore. But that was also one of the reasons I was like, well, I'm not getting along with this person, and I really don't want to stay as part of this team. And to be honest, in the corporate space, you think things are going to work out a certain way, and they don't, because everyone thinks, oh, you just go and you tell this person and then they'll just be able to just magically come up with a solution. But they can't, they won't a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So for me, I was just like, I took advice from one of my senior kind of mentors, and he was always like, you know what, it's better to kind of make a decision on your own rather to feel like you've been made to do it. So if you feel like you are ready to go and with everything else, then yeah, just go. And yeah, it worked out brilliantly. So yeah.
So did you take the steps? Like, did you speak to your manager, and what advice did they give you, and what made you say, well, okay, that's all well and good, but I still need to leave?
Yeah. So yeah, I did speak to my management, and they gave kind of the usual good advice, trying to figure out like, could you work with them this way? Could you guys work together? And this way we had like calls together and stuff. But again, I just didn't feel like the environment was ever going to be a good enough place for me anymore. And I wanted to be somewhere where I just be completely comfortable. And of course, you're going to have moments in your career, but when you're not always going to be, you know, super comfortable with the people that you're working with. But I think when it's bad enough for you to feel kind of upset and you have to go to management, it's, for me, better to kind of find a different environment. And it may not always be the option for everyone. You know, usually you have to just kind of take the advice and figure out how to work with that person. But I'm like, if I don't have to, then I won't.
Yeah, no, some things aren't worth your mental health and your energy, and especially like you're saying, it's like a contributing factor, and you're not learning and earning. Like, yeah, you can. There is a point where you can say, I'm ready to leave this challenge and move on to something else.
I go exactly. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Okay, Amber.
We're going to the tech tea.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favourite part.
Yeah.
It's my favourite part of the podcast. So it is time for What's the Tech Tea? So Hosanna will be spilling the tech tea, sharing something controversial in the tech industry.
Yeah, so I think my thoughts on something that other people might find a bit controversial in the tech industry. I find the pace in which we release technology to sometimes just be ridiculous. I mean, come on. Like, we create such a hype and such a buzz around things, which is fantastic. But sometimes I think sometimes it dulls and kind of impacts the way that we can show what the technology is actually doing. You know, you just hear the words. Like, think about from between now and 2020, whatever it was, we've had NFTs, we've had the metaverse, we've had this, we've had that. And it's all coming out so fast that the average person maybe doesn't get the value of it straight away, because all they can hear is just the noise around it. And in reality, unless you actually know how to use it, it can be just a blur. Like, I speak to people about ChatGPT. Like, I was at a friend's house like 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about ChatGPT. So my husband and I are both in tech, and a couple of our friends are. And this person was in finance, and he was like, "Yeah, I've heard about it, but I haven't started using it yet." And we were like, "What? Like, you can use it like this? You know, you can use these prompts, and this is how it works." But most people just don't have that person to tell them.
Yeah.
So it just gets very, I don't know if about you guys, it gets very confusing.
No, absolutely. And it's disengaging, right? Like, because it's coming so quickly and we see the kind of hype like escalate and come back down again. Literally. It's like, what's the point in me even trying to understand blockchain?
Oh my God. Don't get me started on blockchain. Blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs. I'm sorry, I just couldn't. Like, I was really, DAOs, I was really trying to...
You wanted to be a Web3 girl.
Look, guys, I went through a phase. Don't tell anyone. Thanks, so Jesse, but we're addressing it now live on the podcast. I wanted to be a Web3 girl at one point. I was like, you know, I'm going to read about DAOs, I'm going to read about Web3, all these things. Babes, you know when you're reading and you just can't, the information isn't sinking in. I was really trying hard. I was watching the videos and I was like, I don't get it.
But then I think that's part of the problem. A lot of people jump on to try and be the first to understand it and know it. And because they don't fully understand it, they then go and explain it in a way which is inaccessible. And then it's just like contributes to this noise, like you're saying, of people not really knowing what they're talking about.
And like, you know, it's just like people had such strong opinions about it and like such polarizing opinions. Like, Web3 is going to change the game. We need more women in Web3. Okay. And then Web3 is a big scam. Like, don't get into it. And I was like, babes, I don't know who to believe.
Where are we going? I'm confused. I'm like, what are we picking? Is it security? Is it data? There's so much. And I think that's the thing. Like, obviously, like, innovation is fantastic. And I think tech companies, I think on a large scale, do a great job of slowly releasing stuff. But because it gets in the hands of the media, because obviously we don't release things as soon as they come out, right? There is loads of steps. They have to be public, generally available, but they have to be also on preview. So there are lots of people who have to see it before it gets to actually the public. But the minute that the media get a hold of it, it's like a frenzy. Like, who's going to make the most amount of money off the back of this, rather than what I think a lot of tech companies want. Like, what impact is this actually going to have for our society? Like, how are we actually going to use it on a day-to-day basis? But then we get to a point where we're not even seeing how the people are using it. We're just seeing people telling us to use it. And then we're like, I have no idea. I didn't know anything about NFTs. I didn't know anything about crypto. My husband managed to learn it. I was like, fantastic. He made some money off it. So great. But other than that, it was just like, no idea.
I was on Twitter the other day and I was like, this is why I don't go on Twitter anymore. But like, they literally was like, have I made $1 million from ChatGPT? I was just like, you know them ones. And
Yeah.
I was just like,
All the threads.
I was just like,
$1 million. I'd like to see that.
like, what are you typing?
What are you
in?
doing?
Like,
What prompts are you using?
Send me this exact amount to this account from anyone else. Like, I definitely agree with the whole technology piece.
Definitely. And I think I remember using the GPT-3 beta and the API that was available before it was public release, and people understanding like the capabilities, but also being more aware of its limitations. We need to be careful with it. But then as soon as it was public release and the headlines and the tabloids, the Terminators are becoming sentient and they're tricking us into thinking they're human. And like all of this like fear mongering. You see what I'm saying?
So much fear. And in reality, we're not even close to that yet. Like, come on, guys. Like, we're not close to every single job being taken over by AI. We're not. And there's a lot of steps that needs to be taken before, you know, we even get to AI kind of taking over an entire industry of people and stuff like that. So it does scare people. And also it puts people off technology in a way, because I think some people obviously naturally will get defensive because they'll be like, well, if my job is being taken, I don't want to interact with that thing.
Yeah, exactly
so there needs to be, I think, a little bit more sensitivity in the way that these type of technologies are released out to the public.
Definitely.
But even the media, the clickbait titles, developers, are you going to be made redundant?
Yeah.
That's just not a nice thing.
No one needs that.
Like, no one really needs it. It's like, read the room. Like, we just come out of like lockdown, like the recession, like give the people some hope.
Exactly.
And now it's like AI is going to make you redundant.
Exactly.
Have
Scary.
some compassion, please.
Absolutely. Do you have any advice for people that are intimidated by this kind of boom and bust of our information around new technology? Like, how do I engage with it if it's so intimidating? What would you say?
I think first of all, go to the source. That's the first thing. Like, if a company is working on a technology, go to kind of the documents that they've released, and they will have a lot of good information about how to use it, because they have to, right? They have to follow compliance, they have to follow some laws, and they're not really going to bother to do the clickbait thing, because what's the point? They already make trillions of dollars, right? They're just releasing it because they want to. So I think number one, firstly, go to that. And then number two, kind of think about the way that technology is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an assistant, right? It's supposed to help you improve your life. It's not supposed to take over absolutely everything. It's just supposed to be something that you can use to make your life a little bit better. So have a think about, once you've read it, have a think about whether or not you need to know about that. Like, do you need to know about NFTs if you're never going to kind of use them for anything? Probably not. Someone else can do that. So pick the things that are interesting to you and that are going to help you either personally or with your career, I would say is the best way to go.
So I think something that comes along with being a cloud specialist and being more sales focused or people focused, it might be like something that some people find intimidating. But what was it for you that made you feel like it was the right decision, having done a computer science conversion? And why do you think it's a good career to go for?
Yeah. So for me, the what interests me the most about kind of talking to companies and stuff is you see the direct impact pretty much straight away. So obviously when you are like programming and you're building something, the impact is generally just for you, like when your code runs and things like that, your game works, whatever. But when you are working with customers, you see the impact of their customer, like, right? And we think about it, technology mainly just for the private sector, but I actually work with public sector organizations. So I get to see that, you know, technology can literally save someone's life. It's not just like an app. It's an app that, you know, will find a missing person or will diagnose someone. And I think that's what interests me the most about my role. Depending on the customers you work with, you can go into their businesses. So you can go into a hospital, you can go into the police, you can go into education, you can go into ASOS, you can go into a bank, whatever customer you have. So that's what interests me the most. And you can see kind of like how much help you're doing, and obviously how much help the technology that the software engineers are building. You can go back to them and be like, what you're doing is amazing. Like, you know, like this is exactly what the customer needs. So yeah, that's what interests me the most about the role. And it can be daunting, but you have to remember, when you become, I guess, the expert, you know more than everyone else in the room. And that's it. That's the reality of it. So you can't be too scared because they're expecting you to know. They don't know. So you can only come with what you know to help them as well.
Yeah. And how do you find communicating with the tech teams? Do you find that you're still needing to interact a lot or depend on your technical skills to be able to communicate with the software engineers and the architects and all those kinds of roles?
Yeah, so there's like lots of layers. There are architects within kind of my team, because that's just kind of like with tech, it's just different stages, right? Like you go from the software engineers all the way to kind of like the most salesperson, and I'm not the most salesperson, so there's like architects just after me, but they are pre-sales architects, so they're slightly different, but they help to kind of like architect the solution for the customer. But then there's also, I speak to product teams. I haven't spoken to software, the engineering teams for a while, but sometimes I do. And it's just to let them know that, you know, this solution doesn't quite fit the market or my customer base. You know, they maybe because of security, or because of whatever. And that way I can be like, okay, is there something that we can do to amend that? I don't need to know what that thing is going to be, but I just need to let them know, please, can we change the code slightly to fit this? And they can be like, yes, no. And we can submit things both in paper, so we don't actually have to speak to the team. So we just submit a form or something. But yeah, or I can give it to the next technical person and they just pass it along the chain.
Yeah,
but,
so there's quite a big team involved in the implementation of tech within an organization.
Oh, absolutely. Like a lot of people, when they hear tech sales, they can't, obviously they hear sales, so they think like, oh, like I'm just selling, like, I don't know, this water bottle to you and then that's it. But it's not. I'm involved in the entire project of the implementation of it. So starting off, having the initial conversation, then bringing in architects, then engineers, then a partner. Usually companies will hire another company to do it for them. They won't do it internally. So working with them. And then once that's finished, looking at the usage of that technology as it grows, because that's how cloud computing is built. It's not like a here you go. It's not like a let me sell you this water bottle and then off you go. It's let me sell you this water bottle, but I don't get paid until you drink the entire bottle. So you have to constantly be like, do you have enough training? Do you understand how to use the technology properly? Do you have any challenges? Is it broken? It's just a continuous thing.
Yeah, and I guess identifying the areas they need help from the utilization and things like that.
Yeah.
So how do you get to upskill that area? Like you must have to do quite a lot of like diagnostic work in terms of understanding the customer's needs and kind of anticipating where they might not understand that they're using something correctly. So how's that something that you develop and learn?
Yeah, I think it's like just from watching other people do it. With the diagnostic, it's all about, again, people hear sales, so they think you're going to be you're going to just talk at people. But my job is just ask the questions. I'll ask like, you know, how many virtual machines do you have on premise at the moment? Does your team know cloud computing already? When do you think the go live date will be? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? So it's just me asking loads of questions and then them coming back to me with what they need. And then with anticipating, it's my job to see the challenges that other people in this sector have had. So I can be like, you know, I don't think your team is large enough to handle this by themselves, right? We probably need to bring someone else in to do it, to support you. Or I can be like, oh, you know, security is going to be a problem, or cost comes up, budget comes up, and I can be like, you know, it's going to cost you about this much per month for you to be able to actually utilize the solution fully. So it's lots of kind of different things, but you just learn as the questions that are going to get asked eventually. And then you just like, okay, I think I can help. And then there's loads of other people who can also provide you with the information. It's all about just kind of information gathering for the most part.
Yeah, I'd love to know how you make time for upskilling. It sounds like you are constantly learning about new features and solutions in your role. How do you make time for that?
So my company is really good and really big on skilling. So firstly, we have like skilling days. So you can take training days. You can take them whenever you want. So if I was like, you know, I need to study. I did a certification, an AI certification 2 weeks ago. And I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do a little bit of study. No one's going to check, right? Like the tech industry is very different to other industries, right? A lot of the time, no one is like, you don't need to tell your manager that you're training, right? They'll just be like, you just put it in your diary. So that's one thing. I'm quite lucky, at least in my company, to have that. And then also we have specific training days that you can take. So you can, you know, contact your manager and be like, I would like to take this entire day and just focus on this, and then they'll give it to you. So it's really just what works for you, but it's a lot of the time is dedicating the time for, number one, certifications, because they do help for things that you don't know, from a technical perspective. And then number 2, I also have to learn things that are not just technology, learning like the industry. So I try and learn my industry quite well. I read some newsletters, but I just have to make time for it. There is no way out of it. Like the company is very kind of strict with it. You have to pass what they've told you to pass. So they give you a learning path, and they say like, you need to pass these certifications. These are the learning
and that's continuous.
Continuous. Every year updates.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And then yeah. So
I like that.
Yeah, so it's based on your role. It's based on your role. And so they're like, you as an Azure specialist, this is what you have to learn this year. And then they may amend it year from year, because sometimes this is the thing with tech sales. Sometimes they'll be like, no, we think you need to be a lot more technical. So we'll give you all this tech stuff. And then sometimes they're like, no, we need you to pull back and do more sales stuff. So here's some sales training for you to do as well.
That's so cool. And what advice would you have for someone who's curious about tech sales, not engaged with it before, and wants to kind of explore whether that's the right thing for them?
Okay, buy my ebook. No, I mean, first of all, I think, just do the research. So there's so much free stuff online. You don't have to follow them, but watch the people on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram that are talking about their job. Spend some time looking at the job descriptions, even though I have a bit of a thing about job descriptions.
Oh,
what's
the thing about
I just find like they're just not great. Like sometimes I read them and I'm like, what is this job? I don't.
When they list like every technology.
But the amount of bullet points on
Yeah.
You need to know
people are doing this job.
like front end, back end, DevOps,
everything.
Every single one. And I'm like, I've even had to have it where I've had recruiters come up to me and I've read the job description and I'm like, I'm not sure this is the right. And I've even had it when the application process, one company was like, we want you to kind of deploy an EKS, so Kubernetes. And I was like, for a job, do you know how long it takes to learn Kubernetes? Like, it's not something that you can just do overnight. But I have a thing about job descriptions, but try to read them, see if you can pick up little bits and bobs like here and there. And then, it's all about the solution as well that you're interested in. Like, is there a specific solution that you want to sell? Obviously, I look after cloud, and that includes infrastructure and data and analytics and security. But some other people just focus on security. Some people are just data and some people are hardware. You know, if you're interested in laptops, iPads, phones, well, not phones, but iPads. I've already said iPads, but computers. I don't know why I'm saying iPads. Surface laptops or Google laptops, Google Chromes, then look at that. And then also look at the big tech companies will have a sales element to it, because obviously someone needs to get it to the market. So Google, Amazon, and Microsoft obviously all have big sales orgs. So look at that. And then look at startups. Maybe you're a technical person and you want to dabble in sales, and startup is the place for you because you'll wear so many hats at a startup company as well.
100%.
So,
Thank you so much to Hosanna. It's been fantastic to speak to you today. Where can we keep up with you if we want to follow you and find out what you're up to?
I'm at TheTechCornr, no E at the end, on pretty much all the social media. So Instagram, TikTok. I have done some YouTube stuff as well, so it's on there if you need some help, but that's where I'm at.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be sure to follow us on socials at Glowing in Tech on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
And let us know what you thought of the episode anywhere you're listening, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Available on all major podcast platforms.